Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltari, and this is Have Roots, Will Travel. I am a genealogist and a passionate traveler, and as I travel, either virtually or through time or in real time, I am constantly struck by the stories that we can glean in genealogy, and that really has been my purpose over these last, I guess, 3 years, 4 years. I have been telling these stories of les filles du roi and les filles mariées. And now I'm reaching, I think it's episode 125 of Les Filles Mariées. There are 262 of them, so we're closing in on halfway there. But these women were truly the founding grandmothers, I call them. The Filles du Roi, if they were the founding mothers, these are the founding grandmothers. They came to Quebec at a time when things were really, really rough. So I really honor their memory, and I really wanted this particular series came a couple of years after I started Les Filles du Roi, because I began to notice how many filles mariées there really were and how integral their story was, and I wanted to honor these women as well. So with that being said, we will get to know our next fille mariée. But before we do that, let me show you ways that you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the channel, in the know, if you will. You can subscribe, which is completely free, and like and notify. Like means that you'd like a particular video, so you have to do like on any video that you watch. And notify is just the one time where you get notified about any new content. Ways to help the channel itself grow. And this involves becoming a member. And YouTube now has a wonderful membership program that starts at 99 cents a month all the way up to $24.99 a month. I created those particular labels. And all of you, whatever level you're at, gain access to all of my videos ahead of you get the sneak preview. You get everything right away. You don't have to wait in line, so to speak. And you also get, depending on your level, different videos, different gifts, that sort of thing. So have a look and see if there's a level there that you would be comfortable with. We also have on my website, Have Roots Will Travel, a PayPal button. A lot of you use that just to, donate to the cause, as it were. And also we have a super thanks, which I love because it's like, you particularly like a video. And so you just say, okay, I want to do a super thanks, and you figure out, the amount of the tip you want to leave. I really appreciate that, and it's kind of a fun thing to do as well. So I appreciate all of you who have done this, and we will now proceed to getting to know our fille mariée of this episode. Today we're going to be looking at episode 125, Catherine Marchand. She comes to us as a viewer request, but I did not have her in my file, so it was a pleasure to get to know Catherine a little bit better. So Catherine was born in 1644 in Paris, France. Her parents were Pierre Marchand and Geneviève Lépine. So some of you sharp-eyed viewers may know that last week we talked about this exact same place with Catherine Lottier. Let's review. The 6th arrondissement lies on Paris's left bank. This is where both Catherines are from, and it's nestled between the Seine River and what was then a growing maze of intellectual, religious, and artisan communities. In the 1600s, this area was not the polished and elegant district we know today. It was really a patchwork of medieval streets and convents and growing neighborhoods. Many young women living in Paris's 6th arrondissement came from modest backgrounds. Some worked in domestic service or within the surrounding religious institutions. Obviously, this environment made it a natural recruiting ground for programs like the Filles Mariées, as opportunities were limited and marriage prospects were slim for poor or orphan women. The original church of Saint-Sulpice was a modest medieval structure. In 1646, reconstruction of the new Saint-Sulpice began. The same church that stands prominently today, although it took well into the 18th century to make it come true. And Saint-Sulpice was really more than a parish church. It was a hub for baptisms and marriages and charitable works. It served as one of the largest parishes in Paris, and had strong ties to organizations caring for orphans and young women, precisely the kind of institutions that supported the Filles Mariées program. So you can see that they both Catherines came from this really, really strong place and remember that the Filles Mariées was not a program run by the government, but really pushed by the churches and by the institutions. So both of these Catherines were part of this particular movement. Both Catherines, Catherine Marchand and Catherine Lottie from last week, they would come to New France aboard the Saint-André in 1659. They had been recruited by Jeanne Mance, who really wanted to make certain that Montreal kept going and kept growing. So she would arrive in New France in the fall of 1659. The groom that she would select and who selected her, his name, Laurent Archambault. And he was born in 1642 in Archambault, France. His parents were Jacques Archambault and Françoise Toureau. Now, Archambault is a commune. Remember that commune is a small village or town or city even in the region of the département of Charente-Maritime, which is like a county, and it is part of the region of Nouvelle-Aquitaine. It's about 25 kilometers southeast of La Rochelle, the very famous port. It has evidence of prehistoric settlement through Neolithic dolmens and was later developed with the construction of the Château d'Arlénières in the 14th century. The Church of St. Peter that you see there was built in the 11th century and served as the parish center, and it actually has still a 17th century bronze bell. The village is historically linked to the famous Pierre Le Moyne d'Iberville that we know of in New France, and also the founder of the Louisiana colony. He held the title of Squire of Archambault. Parish records from Archambault are valuable for genealogical research. You can see how beautiful it is right there on the coast. And this is where Laurent would have come from. How brave this family was. In 1646, the Archambaults came. There was Laurent with his 4 sisters, a small brother, and they were all together, and they came to Montreal and became such an important part of that history. On January 7, 1660, Catherine Marchand and Laurent Archambault were married at Montreal, and so begins a very important marriage for the history of Montreal. Now, let's have a look at Montreal, and it was essentially named Ville-Marie. The settlement was founded in May of 1642 by Paul de Chaumery, Sieur de Maisonneuve. It was envisioned not just as a trading post, but as a missionary center, a spiritual beacon, it said, at the edge of the wilderness. Can you imagine? It was just amazing. However, those early days were anything but easy. Harsh conditions and constant threats from the Iroquois Confederacy placed the colony in a precarious position. Really and truly, Quebec City and Trois-Rivières were kind of looking at this new colony going, what are they doing and what are they thinking? Building a colony on an island? But Maisonneuve said, you know what, I'm not giving up. He went back to France. He got 100 settlers, which would become known as the Grand Recruit, the Great Recruitment, and out of that was the ashes, of, I think there were like less than 50 people on the island at that time. And so they would leave. These people would really work hard to make Montreal into the city that it became. One of the key figures was Marguerite Bourgeois, a nun who came with de Maisonneuve and would establish the foundation of the church, Notre Dame Church, and the congregation. She was instrumental in feeding the poor, in teaching, really being someone who you could count on. And so you can see that by 1663, for example, Maisonneuve established the Saint-Famille militia because they didn't have any kind of military support, so they were constantly at the mercy of the Iroquois. And then, so these pictures here kind of give you a broad base. This old Montreal, we call it Vieux Montréal. It looks exactly like this. I was just there this past fall. It looks exactly like this. We've talked about the church. And then this is from the Musée de Montréal, and I put the link there for you as well. This is an artist's depiction of what the fort would have looked like early on. And then, of course, you have the beautiful modern day skyline, nightline of Montreal. It really is my favorite city in the world. Now, the 1666 census finds Laurent and Catherine Archambault, a very small little girl. And then by 1667, we have Laurent, his wife, we have Catherine, we have Marie, we have a domestic named Robert Newman, Robert Newman, I bet you that's what it is. 3 beasts, which is like 3 cattle, and 14 Archambault, about 12 acres of land. They would go on to have 12 children. We have Laurent, who would pass away before the 1606 census. We have Catherine, who would become a nun. Geneviève would also join the convent. Laurent would marry Anne Courtemanche and have 3 children, all of whom made it to adulthood. Anne's mother was Elisabeth Gagne, a fille mariée, who we profiled way back in episode 13, and I have the link for you if you want to look at it. We have Jacques, who would marry Françoise Aubuchon and would have 11 children, all of whom made it. Anne would marry Nicolas Desroches at age 13, but sadly would pass away before her 14th birthday, before leaving any descendants. André would marry Cécile Admar and would have 5 children, all of whom would make it. Pierre would marry Marie Lacombe and would have 8 children, all of whom would make it. We have Françoise, who would marry Toussaint Baudry and would have 8 children, 6 of whom would make it. Jean would marry Cécile Lefebvre and would have 8 children, all of whom made it. Then we have Madeleine, who also became a nun, and Marie, who also joined the convent. In the 1681 census, we find Laurent and Charpentier, which is a woodcutter, and Catherine, his wife, their children, Marie, Laurent, Jacques, Anne, André, Pierre, Françoise. They have 2 guns, 7 bêtes à cornes, which are 7 goats or 7-horned animal, and 13 Archambault, which averages out to about 10.9 or 11 acres of land. Catherine would pass away first at the age of 69, and she and Laurent would have been married an astonishing 43 years at that time. Now, Laurent himself would go on to live. He did not remarry. He would go on to live until 1730 when he would pass away at the age of 88. Just phenomenal. Now, Catherine would leave us an extraordinary gift of 151 descendants as of 1729. So we can only imagine how many more descendants there are. Let's have a look at some of the historical, monuments or tributes to this family. As befits the extraordinary contribution of the Archambault family to the history of Montreal and of Quebec, of course. We find Jacques is profiled in our French-Canadian ancestors in, I believe it is the volume 19, and there you will also find information about Laurent and his siblings. Have a look at that. You can look for that either in your local library or our Free French-Canadian Ancestors is a website you can go on. I've listed the link for you. Some people, I am told, have great luck purchasing these on eBay. So you can have a look at that if you would like. So this is the plaque to Jacques in the church of where they came from, which is Jacques Archambault and all of his people, les Archambault de Néric, placed this. And in Montreal, there is an actual plaque in the back of the Pointe-à-Calais Museum of Montreal, commemorates his digging the first water well near what is known as Place d'Armes on October 11th, 1658, upon the request of none other than Paul de Chamardy de Maisonneuve. So also what has to happen is he had 2 sons and 5 daughters. All Archambaults living in North America are the descendants of Jacques and ultimately of Laurent. With the Archambault name, it would be Laurent would be their ancestor. And the reason being is that the other son did not produce any descendants. You can be related to Jacques through the daughters, but if your ancestors have the Archambault name, almost 99.9%, it will be Laurent's. Laurent will be your entryway into Jacques' ancestry or genealogy. Another way of getting more information about your ancestors, joining or actually just having a look at Les Archambault d'Amérique, a beautiful website, and I've posted the link in the notes as well. Please have a look at that if that's something that you want to pursue and connect with. I think it would be, so it absolutely has a lot of information on there, so have a look at that. So for more information about Catherine Marchand, who was really the matriarch, we have The Women of Ville Marie, written by Susan McNally, an extraordinary book. It's available on Amazon. Have a look, and I posted the link. And if you speak French, Les Filles du Roi, Pioneers of Montreal, is available as well. An excellent, excellent book for you to gather more information. Wow. Catherine really, really was a power player, and she is the matriarch of the Archambault family. So to those of you who can claim her as your great-grandmother, kudos, because she really was a strong woman, came across, with Jeanne Mance and decided she wanted to pursue family and lifestyle. And then we have Laurent Archambault, who came with his family. These are the pioneers of Montreal. I mean, truly, truly. For those of you who can claim this ancestry, if you haven't already gone to Montreal, you need to book a ticket, because these are your people, and they helped make Montreal the grand city that it is today. So we thank her so much for her contribution and for making such a difference in the lives of so many. And we are ever so grateful that she came to our shores. We bless her memory, and we thank her for her contribution. And I also thank my patrons, supporters, and subscribers. You are all part of the journey that I am on. Thank you so much for your support. And with that being said, I will see you on the next episode of Les Filles Mariées. Until then, au revoir.